Thank you for tuning into On the Brink. I'm your host, Rosemary Armeo. And these days, I have to admit, I am overwhelmed. I'm trying not to be, but there has been a torrent lately. I know you're in on it about scandal and incompetence and outrage, shutdowns and firings, and now impeaching judges and blasting out national security secrets to the world. It's all just too much. Where's it going to end? Well, I've been saying it for a while now. It's going to end in our doom, down into the abyss. But keeping with my podcast theme that it is just unhealthy to dwell on such thoughts as these for too long, I am bringing you in this episode two thespians. Yes, they are multi-talented actor, directors, theater executives, people who bring us magic and poetry and fun in which we can lose ourselves. So welcome to Patrick White and Chris Foster. They are partners who have founded and now direct Albany's Harbinger Theater. And bigger than that, they help to organize a huge festival of theater, which is coming up. I'm going to get them to tell you about that before we end this podcast. But first and right now, I want to jump into theater in the age of upheaval that we are now experiencing. What do you recommend for the Trump protests and resist crowd, Patrick? Anything that can get them away from the angst we're feeling.
Geez, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I want to get away from the angst. Some of the most powerful stuff is stuff that's related right to today and that can send an electric charge. I was lucky enough to be a narrator last week with Albany Pro Musica. They did an oratorio considering Matthew Shepard. And the former Times Union editor, Rex Smith, who is on the board of Albany Pro Musica, introduced the piece and said, what we are doing is a subversive act. By celebrating, by commemorating, by remembering Matthew Shepard and holding a light up and saying that this has value and, that we are a beacon and we are carrying on in the face of hatred, darkness, death. So, actually, what I would recommend, there's a great production down at Capitol Repertory Theater called the Lehman Trilogy. So the last recession we had in 2008 was precipitated by the fall of the Lehman Brothers banking. And this tells the 150-year-old story of how three brothers came from Bavaria and set up a cotton merchant in Alabama, and they brokered cotton from plantations down south to factories up north, and then they transitioned that into banking, moved on to Wall Street, and brought down the world's finances.
Yeah, hardly the stuff of escapism that you're talking about.
It's wonderfully done.
Yeah,
actors play of all the generations. It's a great production.
There is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's at Capitol Repertory Theater down on North Pearl Street. They're a new building, and
right.
Yeah.
There is actually a long history of subversive political art, not just theater, but theater and paintings. And I love that. It's not the escapism. It's actually digging right into it and speaking about it in a different way. Do you have any favorites, Chris, that you recommend? And anything for the MAGA crowd, too. Something like hates immigrants or is cruel to old people, something like that.
I don't know if I could speak for the MAGA crowd, but I do know that actually I met you when I was doing a production of The Normal Heart at Curtain Call Theater.
Yep.
And those kinds of plays, I feel have a place. Still have a place. None of the subjects have gone away, and people need to be exposed to all kinds of stories, that's kind of what our theater company that Patrick and I created do. We don't do Arsenic and Old Lace because we know other theater companies will do that. We don't do Harvey. We do new plays or recently produced plays and we try and bring them to the capital region.
That's actually another one of my questions you segued into quite nicely. Does it make you crazy as, actors and people who love the theater when people just want to go to the old standards? They want to see Arsenic and Old Lace, and you want to give them something new and different. I have a boyfriend who's a composer and does new music. It's classical music, but new. And it's very difficult to talk people into giving it a try. Do you have the same thing with plays?
Well, I think that we've seen plays that even though they are classic comedies, people still won't show up for. So it's the marketing of your play. If you take your play and whatever the subject, because truly, I don't think that there is a play that is a license to print money. There's no play, Neil Simon, whatever it is, that you can put up and people are just going to break down the doors to get in. Every play needs the salesmanship and needs to get the word out about what the play is about and why you're so passionate about it. And really, that's the key, is if you can get a company of actors together that need to tell this story, I think that's where, you got the magic sauce. But, you could do anything, and but you need to get out there. I think, we need, obviously, we created Harbinger because we love new plays. I mean, part of the thrill of going to the theater is being surprised, being, seeing something that you haven't seen before. Even if it's a play that you've seen a dozen times, you want to see the new Hamlet. What's going to be done the next time. But, and you have better chances of seeing that with a new play, a new writer, new ideas, because obviously, we're a little short on ideas lately, and we've got to find new ways of going about our problems, because this can't be. We're just not going to go on for another 50 years like this. This is just.
So that's interesting. It's like music and movies where we're seeing remakes and redos of the old standards rather than brand new stuff. You're experiencing that in drama as well.
Yeah, that's just easy sales on their part. What are we gonna do with Snow White? We'll just do a live action. Why would you do that? Well, because we own it. It's just intellectual.
That's how it started.
Property, and I have this property, and we can, it'll get your ears open. Oh, I loved Snow White as a kid, and whatever. It's like pre-sold, comforting.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, it is. Well, go ahead, Chris. You were going to ask something.
I also think it's not just the way that you sell the show. I also think it's you have to do it well.
Right.
I didn't know anything about Elizabeth Packard. I'm not sure whether you have heard of her before or not. I had not. I'm ashamed to say, but we read this play about her, and I thought, if I don't know about her, I bet you there's a lot of other people, particularly men, who don't know who this woman was and what she did, for our country. And so. Sometimes it's just a matter of taking a show and doing it well. And, if you came to see one show and that was great and you really enjoyed that and you were really surprised by that, then it's easier the next time when you say Harbinger's doing the next show,
Right. You give them a benefit of the doubt after the first good experience. That's true. I want you to tell me, both of you, your favorite play, which is a horrible question, I understand, to ask for people in your positions, like asking writers what their favorite book is. But by favorite, I mean a play that you didn't expect, that you had no expectations for, and it was just so, as you mentioned, surprising and wonderful. Anything come to mind? Chris first.
So, actually, if you ask me on any day, it's a different title. But I do remember when I was young, I went and saw Mother Courage by Bertolt Brecht. And I had never experienced that kind of theater before, about this woman who is trying to make her way through the war, and she's kind of selling her children in order to get through that, and then not spoiler here, when her children start dying in action, just so shook up by it, and then I knew, went to see this play. It was at the it was one of those experiences where I had never experienced anything like that before. That kind of theater where something it was well done, but it was it was also a terrifying piece, and I was moved by it. I was shook up by it, and I thought, this is what theater can be. It's not just
Wow.
Neil Simon.
Wow. How about you, Patrick? How do you get kids interested in theater?
There to fill their time, hang out with their friends, and some are really into Broadway. I think different from when I was growing up, they had Glee, or they have all these Disney adaptations, and there's all this product out there where they can see Hades Town and Hamilton on Disney Plus, and they can really like geek out on all the musicals and get a lot of material. How do you interest a kid in theater? That's I think there's something for everyone, and just finding their interests and where it lies, because it's not all musical comedy either. There's plenty of sports related, or there's plenty of interesting stuff that I think any kid, just like any adult, could find something that's in their interest range.
Okay, so let me flip now to adults. You teach adult acting classes. Can anyone be an actor?
Yeah, if they have the desire. Yeah, absolutely. It does.
So what do you learn in the class then?
What do you learn in the class?
If I signed up for your adult acting class, what would you be having me do?
Yeah, I teach a lot of how to work on a script and how to be on stage. How to stand still, how to breathe, how to take the moment, how to drive through to the end of the line, how to pick up your cue, how to move and stay open to the audience when you turn your back upstage, how you have to lift your voice a little so that it carries out, how to be heard on stage.
That's fascinating. Chris, let me switch on you. I'm going to throw you a off the wall question here. The Wiz, what's better, the book, the play, the movie?
So I never read The Wiz, the book.
Wizard of Oz.
Oh, The Wizard of Oz. Just the book, The Wizard of Oz?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually the foundational book, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So I always enjoy the theatrical interpretations of most things the best. And it's not that the problem with the movie sometimes is that they, it's not a live reactive thing with the audience where you can feel the audience and they are with you at every moment. There's a filter that comes along with being in film, and I just don't think it affects. We can be moved by things, but sometimes that has to do with the technical elements, like the sound of something or the music that goes along with it. Whereas on stage, it's like you're kind of doing it without a net. And there's a thing in human nature where people, when someone is going through a problem on stage, we have empathy for them, and we start to worry about them, whether they're going to achieve their goals or not, or if there's obstacles that get in their way. We worry about that, and we want to have that resolution for ourselves. It's like
we're cheering for them. We're cheering for them. Mm-hmm.
Correct. That's what happens.
That's really fascinating. I actually loved all three, the book, the play, and the movie with Ariana Grande. She was great. And I'm really interested as a writer in how all these art forms, the medium, interact with each other. They're different. They're all very different, even though it's the same source material.
Another great example of that is Life of Pi. I thought.
Yes, you're right.
I thought it worked, and it worked differently in all three mediums, and something about it just carried over, or the foundational storytelling of it reached through in different ways, completely different from the movie to the play to the book.
And you almost think it's impossible to do it on stage, but they actually find ways, and the puppetry and
right.
and every part of that, it's like, oh, you showed me, it's like one of those things where you go, I don't know how they're going to do this, and then they go ahead and show you that they.
It's that surprise element that you talked about. That and that
transformation.
Yeah.
Conversely, we've seen a couple of movies made into stage adaptations, which had no reason to be on stage other than we recognize the title. We saw a production of Back to the Future as a musical, and Doctor Strangelove.
Devil Wears Prada.
Devil Wears Prada.
As a play.
No reason for being besides everyone knows the title.
There were a lot of people, and they wanted to be there, and they wanted to enjoy it, but it didn't really take the source material and do anything on, what you saw in, Meryl Streep do in the movie.
That you already saw it done well and better. Yeah, that's it. Patrick, I recently saw you in West Sand Lake at a little theater there with a play that I can't believe was a play, Squirrels. It was so off the wall. Basically, I wanted a night out in West Sand Lake with friends, and we said, okay, well, we'll give this a try, and we had the best time. That was a surprise.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was a Marxist take on living as a squirrel. What was it? The red squirrels have everything, and the fox squirrels were fighting for their share.
For their fair share.
Winter's coming, and who's going to share the nuts?
And who's going to share the nuts? And people running around with bushy tails and squeaking, and oh my God, how did that ever work? And yet, I loved it. We still talk about it. It was amazing.
It's just one of those things. Like, I don't know. You start reading, and you feel the author's voice, and he was very strong. He opened that play with that monologue, I was just hooked from the beginning. And the play on all the names, Mamalia and Screwiday, and which were the...
Because if you sit there and you say, oh, I'm going to write a play about income inequality, that doesn't sound very attractive on the onset. But all of a sudden, if you're doing it in a humorous way, through this the device of these squirrels, it suddenly becomes kind of exciting.
So listeners, you are not listening to a boring podcast about creativity and financing theater. You're listening to two guys who have been involved in theater for decades now. They know what they're doing, and they have fun with it, and they make us have fun with it. We're going to take a big break, and then we'll be back with more from Patrick White and Chris Foster. Hang on. We are back with On the Brink. I have two longtime Albany area playwrights and actors and theater executives. They're all-round guys. Patrick White and Chris Foster, they're the founder and director of the Harbinger Theater, and they also put together an annual theater festival they're going to tell you about. Some of you may be wondering why in the heck on a national, sometimes even internationally, this podcast is listened to. I'm concentrating on the Capital District, and I see it as a model. I'm a lifelong resident, but I lived a long time of my adult life away from the area, and I had no idea there were as much and as many theaters operating and doing great stuff in my own hometown. I recently went down to Steamer down in Albany, New York, and a theater in a little old a former fire station, Steamer number, I'm going to get the number wrong, 10.
10.
Yes, theater number 10. It was fabulous. I laughed my butt off. Really, I did. And we had such a good time. And that was the inspiration for this podcast. I contacted Patrick shortly after that and said, we have to tell people about that. So let me start. Is it unique, or is this sort of thing going on in little communities and middle-sized communities all over America?
I don't think like us.
I don't think so either.
I don't think like us. I mean, I think you might find some comparable numbers of, I don't know, but there are theaters with a thriving community scene. And there are theaters like community theaters throughout the nation, and some that have paid staff, and some we went to one just this weekend in Fort Collins, and they sold out like 300 seats for an opening night of The Minutes by Tracy Letts.
Wow.
It was a great production, but what we have is unique. Like over in the Berkshires, they have 3 theaters that are internationally known. The New York Times comes up and reviews them. Barrington Stage, Berkshire Theater Group, Williamstown, Shakespeare and Company, but they don't have theater for the community. They don't have staged readings. They don't have community theaters. They don't have, like, if I went to go see a play in Pittsfield, I couldn't, get so excited about seeing a play and say, I want to try acting. I have to come over to Albany. I have to drive an hour because they don't have it. They don't have what we have. And what we have is over 100 theaters. We have 30 school districts. We have 20 youth groups. We have 22 schools competing for the National Jimmy Awards in high school. We have 8 colleges, 5 of which have theater majors. We have 47 community theaters. We have 16 professional theaters. We have a theater that preps shows for tours, Broadway shows, proctors. We have the only Lord D Theater in 16 counties, Capital Rep. We have an improv theater that owns their own theater. We have a blacklight theater in Rotterdam that performs with a black light. We have a couple of puppet companies. We have a Shakespeare collective. We have
senior theater,
matinee theater players who write, stage, and produce their shows and take them on tour to kids' schools.
What's a blacklight theater? I have to ask that first.
I have not been yet.
We have to go.
I have to. They've got another break coming up in. Is it April? I think it's April. But they perform with all fluorescent clothing. They do.
Oh wow!
They do like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and they're all dressed in black, except they'll move the ships around in fluorescent lighting.
That's better than Squirrel Tales.
It's some discipline. It comes from Germany, of course, where all the great
great theater, innovative theater comes from Germany. Okay, I want you now to tell us, do an extended commercial, if you will, about the festival, which, as I understand it, is a way to showcase this richness of theater experience.
This is, for many, many, many years, I've thought that we deserve this. that we deserve a opportunity to celebrate and promote all the theater that's going on in the area. It's going to be a 4-day festival, region-wide, 7 venues. It's going to go from Fort Salem to Averill Park with stops in Albany, Schenectady, and Troy. It's going to go from Thursday, June 12th through Sunday, June 15th, and culminate in a 20-event day at Albany, where there's going to be a 1-act play festival, an improv workshop, a master class on vocal auditions, a round table on diversity, a round table on censorship in theater. Participating will be Howard Sherman, an internationally known advocate for theater. Also, Shar White is going to be the keynote speaker. He wrote the play The True, based on Mayor Corning and Polly Noonan. And
That's in Albany. For listeners outside of Albany, that he is a long-time Albany mayor, and Polly Noonan was his, I guess we can say it now, she's dead, you can't libel the dead, his lover, and the grandmother of our current senator. So yeah, pretty racy stuff here. This is great. Yeah. So organizing this, that's a small job. You do that like what, in your spare time?
Yeah.
No, we started this project over a year ago, just seeing how many folks would show up from different theaters to see if they were interested in the first place in having this festival. And a lot of people showed up, and a lot of people started expressing interest and wanting to know how they could help. And we started creating committees to take on different aspects of the festival that we need them to take on. We had a huge fundraiser this past fall at Cohoes Music Hall. They were kind enough to really offer their space. And we, at that point, we raised about $15,000 towards putting on the festival. We're still, fundraising in order to make that happen.
What's your goal? How much do you have to raise?
$35. We're looking at
$35,000.
Yes, and whatever we bring in, will be better publicity for us and better press, and take over the side of a bus. Just to raise the awareness of theater in the Capital Region. And that $15,000 that we raised, we're way beyond that now. But this is all raised by the community. This is all actors, directors, theater companies, Cohoes Music Hall donors right now. We haven't received, any assistance from corporations yet, or from cities, or grant money. We're still working on that. Hopefully that'll be better or easier the second year. We have 78 days to go, and we're just keep pushing. We're gonna make it, but and that is the reason why the Capital Region is so great, is because of the community. It has all this interest, support, participation, and attendance. There are 70 shows, 70 separate theatrical events in the month of March in the Capital Region. Yeah. And we have not been to a one that had lousy attendance. Every show we go to has full audiences. And how is that possible? How do we have a production with 20 people on stage, 10 people backstage, and yet there are still 70, 80 people out in the house for, a 10-show run. But that's what the Capital Region has. It has all this interest, participation, support from the community, from all of us.
This is so interesting. So if, of course, I want to promote this. I love this stuff, and that's why you're on the show. If people want to know more about it, is there a website or a flyer, or what do we do to get the word out?
Absolutely. www.crftinc.org. craftinc.org. crftinc.org.
Okay, and that will tell us when the dates are. You'll repeat
Yes,
the dates
yep.
and the shows. Okay.
Yes. Well, and as we get closer to the festival, then we will start listing what's going to happen
Yeah.
on each
Right.
day at each site, because we're still working out some of the details
Right.
on that.
There'll be
And
more
I
detail.
certainly want to promote that here too. So I'll
But
be
right
checking
now
with you.
on the website, doing a beautiful job, Shia Reyes, volunteering. It's all volunteer as well. We're a
Wow.
501c3. No one's
Wow.
getting paid. We're all volunteer. And Shia has put on the website the 7 venues. Thursday night, we're having a mixer at the Q Theater in Center Square. Friday morning, we have Senior Day out at Sand Lake Center for the Arts, and then that shifts over to Sage College at Troy for Education Afternoon. Friday morning, we're up at Breakfast at Fort Salem. Saturday afternoon, we're lunch at Schenectady Light Opera Company. Saturday night, we're at the Rep in downtown Albany, and then Sunday, we're at UAlbany.
Wow, that's my home school, so
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to run into you there. I have to get you to talk about money, pricing. Why does it cost so much to go to the theater? I think this is something theater goers do not really understand.
Well, go.
Yeah, I was just
Chris Chris is going to say.
There are shows like down on Broadway. There are shows that because of all the people it takes in order to make a show run, and if you're paying equity actors, there's a certain fees that are that you're required to pay as well. So those can be very large costs. When it comes down more towards the community theater, though, it sort of depends on the health of the theater itself. I mean, Harbinger, we have purposely try and have the lowest possible prices in the area because we want to attract as many people to come to the theater as possible. I know when you do certain shows like a musical, you probably have to pay the musician, so that's going to up the cost of the ticket. That's one of the factors. But there are different factors. There are other theaters that maybe they took out a loan because they wanted to do some kind of improvement on the theater, and now therefore they are forced to raise their ticket prices. So it's not always it's just that there's one fee. I mean, you do have to pay for rights for every show that you produce, unless you have an ingrown playwright who says, I'm not charging you for that. But other than that, each time you have to apply for and be granted rights and pay for them before you get to put on a show.
And you can find theater that is affordable. You can find theater, like if you're paying for whatever you're paying for 5, 6 streaming services, you can definitely go to the theater for as many nights of the month as you want. We don't own a TV. So
wow.
We go to the theater, 5, 6 nights a week. Denzel Washington's production is $941 top ticket for Othello. But
yes, and the one I'm
going to
right
go
now.
see Othello, and most of the times the things that stay with us are the shows that cost us $40, $25, $30, because they're the new, they don't have the movie star, and they're produced in garages and
storefronts
that someone just put together. And there are ways to get cheaper tickets. I mean, there are some tickets that are just going to be at that Taylor Swift level. But the thing is, the thing that surprises me is that there are so many people that can afford that can $900 for a night out, and obviously a pair of tickets, but that he can sell out through June 3rd with that many people paying that much money. And there's Good Night and Good Luck with George Clooney, Streetcar Named Desire with Paul Mescal. Chris and I won't be seeing those.
Did you see Hamilton? Did you watch Hamilton? How many times?
I did. I spent too much money for the first ticket. I saw when it was at the public and it was like $140. And I was like, no, that's too much money. And I saw it in its first year, I think, for $350. And I'll never do that again.
Wow. I watched it on Disney
I thought
Plus.
it's a brilliant
Go ahead.
piece of work.
It is brilliant. I
But
watched it on Disney Plus and liked it the best there. You could see all the actors up close.
Yeah, well, in case you can see up close too.
Yeah, you could get right now.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad, but I love live theater, so that's a good way to look at it. You said you go 5 days, 5 or 6 nights a week. You go to theater and no television. That is your entertainment. How about movies?
Once in a while, when we can't go to the theater, I'd rather be in a high school production than go to see a movie. That's just my jam. I'd rather be in the theater than see a movie.
How did that start for you,
we went to
Patrick?
London-
Chris, go ahead. I'm interrupting.
I was going to say, when we went to London, the lovely thing about over there is they have matinees on other days besides just Wednesday and Saturday. So
Right.
we could see two show experiences, every week when we were there.
Cram in a whole bunch on a show. We heard Chris talk about his experience with theater and how he got roped in. What did it to you, Patrick?
Yeah, it's how you frame the question, Rosemary. Because the first time you asked the show that surprised you, and I had a different answer, but what roped me in was Mr. Marhafer's English class. 10th
Oh, wow.
grade in Colony Central High School, and we were reading Glass Menagerie for 2 days.
Holy cow.
And I would do anything to talk in class. And I just raised my hand and I played Tom Wingfield for 2 days straight. And I got to tell my mother to go over the mountain with her broom,
Yep.
babbling witch. And and the class laughed and they appreciated it. And a couple of them came up afterwards and said, "You were really good in that." And that was it.
And that was it. You were. I so love praise for both Colony Central. We're alumni of the same school and of English teachers in general. So that's pretty amazing.
Yes.
I gave you a chance to talk about the festival, of course, because that's what I'm most interested in. But how about the Harbingers? Anything you'd like to say about your, I guess, home theater, I can call it?
Our season actually started late this year, as far as we don't have our own home. We
Right.
rely on working out, making arrangements with the different venues in order to
Right.
And
Explain
so
how
this
that
year it
works.
just happened to be that we have a show in July, we have a show a show in June, a show in July, a show in September, and a show in November. So they're kind of all smushed together this season.
But you don't need a venue. You're moving all around. Theater
Kind
and a circuit run.
Yeah, which has some advantages and disadvantages. But one of the great things about it for our audience and also for our performers, for our collaborators, is that a Harbinger show can come up in any space.
Right.
And every time you go to see a Harbinger show, it's going to be something different. You're not always going to walk into the same room, and you're not going to see the same problems or the same, you're not going to have the same seats. So whenever you buy a ticket to a Harbinger show, it's going to be something different. We've done 14 Capital Region premieres out of 15 shows since we founded during the pandemic in December of 2021. We've got 4 more Capital Region premieres this year. Our first play, directed by Chris, is At the Wedding by Bryna Turner. And that's about a lesbian who goes to her ex-lover's wedding to a man and just decides whether or not to wreak havoc. And then my show, I'm directing Between Riverside and Crazy by Albany grad Stephen Adley Guirgis.
Yes, I want to go see that one for
That's
sure.
a Pulitzer Prize winner, and that's going to be at Albany Civic Theater. That's about a retired cop who can't get over his wife's death and a lawsuit that he has against the city's police. And then we go to Steamer Number 10 has our September show. That's Deep Blue Sound by Abe Kugler. which is currently running right now at the Public Theater off Broadway. And that's a community, an island community off the coast of Seattle where the orcas have gone missing.
Oh, wow.
And the whole community has to come together and talk and figure out what's going on and what change is happening to them.
But it's really about this community and how they try to communicate and they can't do that.
I want to thank you both for the time. I hope you'll come back and talk more before, during, and after the festival. And we end our podcast with a toast. I didn't tell you about that, did I? A little toast.
No.
And this one is going out to the thespians of the world. People like Patrick White and Chris Foster, who help to see the world, who help to tell the world the truth, tell us stories that make us gasp and smile, that rile us up, make us get mad, take action. All of that is good. And an extra sip, too, for the people who have to deal with the logistics and the mechanics and the money of making theater run. That's the non-magical but essential job that keeps the plays coming and the audiences clapping. We so owe you. Thank you.